Hello everybody, what is up, and welcome back to Learning the Powder Keg 1914. In this video we'll be getting into the operations phase of a turn. Now, the Powder Keg 1914 can have a varying turn sequence from round to round, but for the initial turn order it is locked in. Now, for that initial turn order, America does go first, but now it is turn 2, Austria-Hungary, and you can see here that we have been moved here to Central Europe. Now, the Austrian army, as you can see, has been postured on the border of Serbia and also left a few defenders on the Russian border over here in Galicia. The operations phase is fluid, and you can commit non-combat operations and combat operations at the same time, but you must commit all combat operations before actually conducting the battles. So, in this case, the Austrians will just make a non-combat move. They will use rail movement to move their armored train up here to Galicia. But now they will be committing their combat movements. So, in this case, they want to be attacking Belgrade here, and that contains the city of Belgrade and the capital of Serbia. So you can see there is 4 defending Serbian or Russian infantry, because Serbia and Montenegro are aligned to Russia. 4 infantry defending there, and since Belgrade is an unsurrounded city or fortified zone, marked with the circle there, that means they get a +2 defense and they get to choose 1 casualty on the attacker. The Austrians are also attacking across a river, which would be halving their total combat points, but they have a monitor here, and this monitor can be committed to moving from this territory into Belgrade using that river, which would negate that river penalty. So they will be doing that and committing the monitor to that zone. They will also be committing a fighter and their 4 artillery, and because they have a fighter and the Serbians do not, they have air superiority, which means their artillery is all boosted by a +1 combat point. They will also be moving in a decent chunk of their infantry. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 infantry, leaving a few behind. And they will be committing their siege gun. Now, the siege gun has the ability to basically stay in place and fire into an adjacent zone. So that's what it'll be doing here. And because it's not technically crossing that river, even if they didn't have the monitor, it would not be impeded because it can just fire over that river. So then for other attacks, their cavalry here will be moving 1 into Bihar and 2 into eastern Serbia, along with their 4 infantry here and their armored car. That can also move too. That attack will be halved though because it is crossing a river. So now we actually get into tallying up the combat points for each side and committing the battles. The Austrians will declare too that these are the 2 battles that they will be committing, and they won't be doing anything else on the map. Alright, so getting to the combat sequence of the operations phase. So, first up, we'll be doing this river border crossing here into eastern Serbia. So in this case, the Austrians have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 infantry class units, so that's 7 combat points, and an armored car, which is worth 2. So that is worth 8 combat points total. And I'll just be marking that with a 5 + 3, which is 8. The Serbian Russians, on the other hand, only have 2 infantry. That means they are at 2. So now we'll be playing the combat cards. Now, attackers play them first, and combat cards are optional, but they have the ability to boost your combat strength. Also, before I do that, there is territory modifiers. That's very important. So in this case, the Austrians are crossing a river, so that means that their 8 is actually cut in half completely and reduced to a 4. You can see now how significantly rivers impact combat, and how important monitors can be and siege guns that can fire over rivers. So In this case now, the Austrians get to play a combat card if they see fit, which they do because they want to bump up those numbers. They are going to play their 4. And they can do so because they have 3 or more units attacking. The Russians, on the other hand, only have 2 units, so they can play their 1 through 3 cards. And they will be choosing to play their 3. So that has slightly modified the numbers now, so the Austrians are now up to a total of 8 combat points again, so we'll just add another 4 there. And the Russians are up to a 5, so we'll flip that to 5. Next, we do the attack defense cards. Now these are not optional, and they add a bit of randomness to the attacks and defenses so that the kind of larger force doesn't always have the advantage per se. So the Austrians will pull an attack card, and they get a +3 bonus to their attack. The Russians pull a defense card, and they actually get a -3 modifier to their defense. So in this case, the Russians are now down to a 2, and the Austrians are bumped all the way up to a 11. So in this case, the Austrians win significantly, and the winner basically does damage equal to the difference between the 2 values. So 11 minus 2 would be 9. So the Austrians commit 9 casualties to the Serbians, which they only have 2 units here. So those units are killed, taken as casualties. The defender, on the other hand, takes casualties on the attacker equal to their combat card played, and they played a 3, so that means the Austrians must take 3 casualties. So they'll take 3 infantry and move in and take Eastern Serbia with their remaining units. So that is battle number 1. Now, moving on to battle number 2, which we'll try to do pretty quickly. We'll move these cards out of the way, as they cannot be played again until they have played all other combat cards. So, in this case, the Serbians are defending with 4 infantry. They are also in a fortified zone, which is a +2 modifier, so that means they're at a 6. We'll just place that down here. And then the Austrians have, so for their artillery, they have 2, 4, 6, 8. But because each artillery piece is worth 2, but they do have air superiority since they have the only fighter in this battle. So that means each artillery is now firing at a 3. So that means they have 3, 6, 9, 12 combat points worth of artillery. 1 for the fighter, so that's 13. 2 for the monitor, so 15, and then 8 infantry. So that would be 23 combat points. And we'll just mark that here with a 2 and a 3. Oh, plus, as I declared before, their siege gun is firing, so that's an additional 3 combat points, which bumps that up to 26. And because they have that monitor, as I said before, they do not get their combat points halved through crossing that river. So now attack defense cards are played, combat cards are played. The Austrians, since they have such a significant, overwhelming force, decide to save their cards, so they will not be playing anything. The Russians, on the other hand, since they have 4 infantry, they can choose their highest combat card, which is a 5, which they will choose to do, which bumps their number up to 11. So now attack and defense cards are played. So the Austrians get a +2 modifier, and the Russians get a +3 modifier. Can't really see that one, but I'll place that right there. So in this case, the Austrians are now up to 28, and the Russians are now up to, 11, 14. So again, the Austrians end up winning this, and that would be a difference of 14. Now, once again, the Austrians wipe the floor with the Serbians in Belgrade here, and because they only have 4 infantry there, they lose all of those. On the other hand, the Russians did play their 5, so that means the Austrians must take 5 casualties, plus the Russians get to choose one of those because they are defending in a fortified zone. So in this case, they choose to eliminate the Austrian monitor, and they could not choose that siege gun because it is not in the territory. That's an important thing to note when it comes to firing over lines. And then the last 4 casualties the Austrians will simply take on their infantry, which means they do move into Belgrade here with all their units, and they win that action. Now, the Russians lost 2 armies, which basically is 2 infantry, or 2 units or more, so that means they would lose 2 morale on the morale tracker. And the Austrians have successfully moved into 2 territories. They now capture those, and they collect the 1 war material that Belgrade is worth, plus they get a victory capital, which is worth 2 victory points. Moving forward, because the Austrians kind of already made their non-combat operations, they're now finished with their turn, and we would be moving on to the next turn. So, hope you guys found this video enjoyable and informative, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Cobra,